My name's Jeffrey Dana. I'm from Gresham Fire. I'm a captain at an engine company that also has a very large Seaburny squad that is a mini hospital for 100 people if needed. I came here today. This is my disclaimer slide before I get into the title. I'm not paid by anybody. I don't have any agendas. I don't have anyone, I'm not going to sell you anything. I also should put in the disclaimer about my education. I have a master's degree in healthcare management. During the time that I have gone to school since 1981, I have never taken a history class. I've got 4 associates, a bachelor's, and a master's, and I've never taken a history class. History is 50% of what I base my talk on today. The other part is on psychology. Now, when I was in nursing school, and yes, one of my degrees is in nursing, I about failed out of nursing school because of really poor grades in psych nursing. I had 2 patients at the state hospital that thought they were Jesus. And according to the book I'd been reading, there was only supposed to be one Son of God. And so my thought was I'll put them both in the same room. One will convince the other one. Up to this point, I didn't think either of them were the guy, okay? And I was pretty sure that at least one of them would be convinced by my actions. My nursing instructors were not ready for that progressive of treatment, for that kind of delusionment. And it began some of the weekly counseling sessions that I had with my instructors. So, psychology and history. One I know nothing about, one I've proven I know very little about. That's what this is all about. Morons, a very real problem in the fire service. When I talk about morons, I am talking about the clinical definition of morons, not what you're probably thinking. The clinical definition for moron comes based on IQ testing. Standardized IQ testing ranges from 100 to somewhere in the 170s. 0 to 25, you are an idiot. This is a definition. This is not me calling you that. 25 to 50, you are an imbecile, and anything 50 to 75, and actually higher than that, because a lot of us you will see have moronic tendencies. So we may have a higher score than 75. We may not be called a moron to our face by a clinician. But this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the definitions of the lower scores in IQs. The fire service delineates intelligence also. Did I tell you I work C shift? No? Okay. What about this one? I think we all buy into that one. That's probably the one I should save. Probationary firefighter, firefighter, and then engineer, and then, I don't know. I guess I should know my audience. Let's get to the history part that I don't know much about. Okay, history. World War I was in all the papers. Okay, went from 1914 when someone shot Archduke Ferdinand. All of Europe got into it. We didn't get into the war until April of 1917. Okay, about 100 years ago. So I am giving you information that is 100 years old. Google it, that's how I got the information. Okay, the Civil War was one of our biggest wars before that, right? Remember that one? It wasn't in all the papers, there wasn't a lot of papers back then. But that was USA beating up on USA. And I equate that to daily doubles in football. Daily doubles, you're going to practice every day, twice a day, and you're pounding your own team. Number 1 offense versus number 2 offense. Number 2 defense versus number 1 offense. Back and forth in hot, humid weather. My coaches always used to give us salt pills to help us. Now they think hydration might be more helpful. So when World War I finally broke out for America, They sank one of our boats, I think. Yeah. It was everybody come, everybody plays. Okay? They opened up the draft door and said, if you are a healthy male of these ages, and they didn't have a real strong paperwork ethic back then, and so you didn't have a plastic card with your driver's license. Everybody came in, and if you said you were 18, you went to war. If you said you were 18 and you showed up at this place, they would send you to war. You came in this door, they gave you a gun, some green clothes, and you went out that door and got on a boat. And a couple months later, after you got across the Atlantic, you were fighting in World War I. So it was everybody comes, everybody plays. Now, to use another Pee-wee football analogy, everybody comes, everybody plays. You might not get your best team on the field when you need them. The other team's best people may be on there when you are playing everybody. And that's where we were talking about the morons. Dr. Florence Malathion, psychologist, renowned psychologist from the Massachusetts School for the Feebly Minded. Yes, that is an actual place, or it was 100 years ago. The actual title of the place is the Massachusetts School for Idiots and the Feebly Minded. Dr. Malathion wrote a paper in the Journal of Applied Psychology, and it actually exists. I thought that this was a joke, and so I went to the Multnomah County Library and I checked out the December issue in 1917 of the Journal of Applied Psychology and found the paper, "The Moron as a War Problem." A couple minutes ago, I just told you we got into the war in April of 1917. December of 17, Dr. Malathion is writing a paper about how the morons are a problem for us. We won a year later, but this was a real problem. Real enough that it had to be noticed. Dr. Malathion had to figure it out. And Dr. Malathion did not go to war. Had to hear about it back in Massachusetts and then theorize about it, write a paper. Now, you don't just walk in, even today, you don't just walk in. Well, you might be able to publish it online or go to a blog, but if you're going to publish something in a magazine, you don't just drop it in there in December. So we're talking April, May, we're talking about 8 months. They figured out that morons can lose the war for us, okay? One of the things that Dr. Malathion said in their paper, or her paper, was that morons as a group were easily content, monotonous, do not worry about the future, and were easily satisfied. Now, I'm not going to have you jump ahead and think of how this applies to the fire service, because you probably already have pictures, names, dates, and events where you're saying, I know the guys he's talking about. Also wrote, they were not able to adapt to change and not up on the intricacies of modern warfare. Apply that to the fire service. Okay, so here's a quick list. Easily content. They deal with the monotonous and are all right with it. They have no worry for the future. Easily satisfied. Not able to adapt to changes, and they are not knowing of the intricacies of modern warfare. Those are the problems that Dr. Malathion figured out in 8 months and got this paper published. So as you've already done, you've jumped ahead. You've got names, you've got dates, you've got places, and I don't want to give out, the 3 examples I'm going to give you are pretty blatant. And you're going to get into the story and you're going to go, yeah, they should have caught that. Oh, yeah, they should have done that. Pretty quick. I will note that one of these was me. Okay, I'll tell you which one at the end. Okay, so call number 1 happened. It was a EMS call, BU3 we'll call it, burns, rescue goes out, 2 paramedics, they're dealing with this person that has 2nd and 3rd degree burns from the nipple line down and no real cause of fire. They're in the kitchen. They say they were cooking when the burns occurred, but there's nothing cooking in the kitchen. Clothes are melting off of the person. One of the EMT firefighters is wearing a short sleeve shirt and gloves and goggles, so they're set up, but there's a space in here that isn't covered by anything. And when he or she brushed up against the patient, they started feeling a burning on their arm, and there started to be an irritation. And at first they thought, oh, gads, I scraped my arm on something. I must have caught it on the counter or something. And then they blew it off and went about their business. Now, up till now, just by a show of hands, has anyone caught some things that should have said, hey, anybody? Okay, well, here's the next thing in the thing. There's a couple more items that were out there, 4 of them. The patient reaches into what's left of their blue jeans and pulls out a wad of $100 bills and offers to pay cash for the ambulance ride to the hospital. Knowing that, well, I wish all of our patients would pay cash. But they refuse. They say, no, that's not how we work. We'll bill you. You can keep your cash. And they rushed this person out to the waiting ambulance where they were going to move them to a landing zone where Lifelike could whisk them away to a burn center and take care of them. I don't want to step out of the box, but I will step across the box and show you what happened. They're pushing the stretcher. They take 2 steps outside of the house, and down the hill, just like on TV, a trailer goes KFB, ka-freaking boom. There's this smoke, fire, debris raining down on them. And of course, as firefighters, they have just lost all interest in this EMS call. And they turned the patient over to American Medical Response, who took this person undeconned into a helicopter and to the burn center. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things that could have picked up on that they might have missed. They said they were cooking, but nothing's cooking in the kitchen. What else gets cooked? Meth, okay? They brush up against something that starts burning their arm, but in our mind, we're saying, oh, I just scraped it. That's not a welt from me banging it or I just scraped it. But it didn't clue in that maybe something on that patient was burning their arm and melting that person's clothes off. Person paid in cash. I don't know how much an ambulance ride costs in this county, but in our county, it's about $1,300. He or she probably had enough money to pay for the helicopter ride too, which I know how much those cost. It's like $20,000 to $40,000. So that was a clue. And then the exploding trailer. It wasn't until the battalion chief on the alarm that came to fight the fire put the entire fire out and looked and said, hey, that might be a meth lab. Well, then all of the dominoes fell and it kicked in. And they thought, oh, yeah, maybe it was a chemical burn and not a thermal burn. Maybe they weren't cooking cookies or cakes, they were making meth. Maybe that building that exploded down there and is now over there was their lab, that they didn't get burned up here, that they got burned down there. And whatever is burning my arm, I should probably check. A day later, when my hazmat team got there, we called Life Flight and said, hey, did you guys fly a guy yesterday that came from yeah, you might want to decon your stretcher and your helicopter because that person was not deconned before and they came from a meth lab explosion. They were You take a helicopter out of service and someone's not happy. So I hung up. Okay. I was on that scene, but that was not my call, okay? But you can see how some of these things kicked in. Number 2, this wasn't even in either of our states. This happened back east. I say back, not in your state either. Back east and down, no, south. I don't want to give it away, but this is pretty popular one too. You've probably seen it written up in fire journals and EMS journals. Ooh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to say EMS, was I? Okay, so typical day, whatever your typical day is, take your typical day. On that, put a typical afternoon, a typical evening, and a typical night. And at 2 a.m. in the middle of summer, you get an EMS call for someone who is contemplating suicide. Oh, okay. Well, we're not going to go and save someone from a fire. We're not going to go and deliver a baby. We are going to go and assist the ambulance with getting this person who is, for some reason, decided to take his or her life and escort them to the emergency room. So, as you walk up, beautiful summer night, you're in turnout bottoms and a t-shirt, rubber boots, patient's sitting on the front yard in the grass, bottle of Malathion, which is organophosphate gardening liquid, sitting next to them, half drank. As you walk up, they drink the other half. So this person's serious about what they're aiming to do. And you're serious about getting back to bed. So we've already taken whether or not this is a fake call or not out. This person wants to harm themselves so bad that they're drinking this stinky chemical liquid that we know probably isn't good. Set the bottle down. Come on, get on the stretcher. Strap the person down, put them in the back of the ambulance. Since they're 6 blocks away from the hospital, a firefighter jumps in the back of the ambulance to help out. Maybe start an IV, maybe get a history while the ambulance guy is calling the hospital and saying, hey, we have this suicide person that we're going to bring in, and we'll be there in 37 seconds. End of phone call to the hospital. After you get that patient on the stretcher and you start jiggling them a little bit, about a quart of Malathion in your stomach, there is a small chance that you're going to throw up. And when you throw up, that projects the Malathion on the firefighters and the EMTs in the back of the ambulance. It projects onto everything in the back of the ambulance, ceiling, walls, doors, in that little crevice where you slide the glass back and forth, all of those things. And so when the driver sort of looks back in the rear view mirror and sees all this going on back there, he thinks, oh, no. So by the time he parks the ambulance, gets to the back of the ambulance, and starts pulling the stretcher out, the other 2 paramedics are throwing up. So he knows that he's the only one left and has got to deal with these 3 patients. And the door to the ER is right there, so I'll get more help. I'll take this patient in there. Rolls the patient in, sets them there, and then gets wheelchairs to go out and get his partner and the other ambulance tech. Brings them in the hospital. Everybody's throwing up. It looks like something out of Animal House. And everyone is throwing up this Malathion-laced stuff now and have it on them, or they're touching something. It's on their clothes. It's in their mouth. It's in their hair. It's throughout that one patient. So now they've shut down the ER and pretty much put a blight on this hospital. No one's going to want to go to that hospital for a long time because it takes forever to get that smell of Malathion out of the ER. So, was there a couple of steps along the way that they could have said, maybe there's a different way we could do this. I think yes, when you're walking up and you find out what the chemical is. We all know that if there's a potential that they drank it, that the irritation of riding in an ambulance is going to bring that back up. And if it gets on us, then we are patients. And so maybe hazmat techs should take care of this patient. Maybe we should isolate this patient. Maybe we should find a way to collect the vomitus as they're throwing up. And all of this could be directed from the scene. We could wipe off or clean off with a booster line and Dawn dish detergent most of the chemical at the scene from the outside of the patient. If we put them in the back of the ambulance, they're not going to do well. There's other things that we could do for them, give them medicines that hopefully keep them from throwing up. I think they have overwhelmed that with a bottle of Malathion. And number 3, I put number 3 in here because I don't want you to think that I'm standing here and I'm making fun of other fire departments, or that I am calling them morons, or telling you that they got complacent. This happened to me. Winter, not summer. It could have been summer here. It snows in the summer. No. Snowing, icy roads. We get a call for a suicidal patient. We are to stage with the ambulance while police talk to this person. We've all been on that call. Police negotiators do really well with what they do. They don't do it fast enough when it's pouring down snow and I'm missing sleep. And that's how I felt that night. We parked back a ways. The ambulance was ahead of us, and then there was copious police cars. I don't know if your police work like our police do, but they have the worst candle moth syndrome that I've ever seen, and we could not park within a block of this patient. So we're a ways back, and when they finally do tell us it's safe to come in, or their version of it's safe to come in, we pull up past all the police cars. The ambulance pulls up to the one side of the scene. We pull to the other side of the scene, and we start walking back. Now, mind you, we have our turnout boots on. We have chains on our boots because we don't want to fall in the snow. Could happen. We don't want to, we're getting up there, but at the same time, the ambulance is right next to the patient. They are sitting the patient down on the stretcher. The patient's in cuffs. We're from here to the back of this room from the ambulance, and the ambulance goes like that. The universal sign for, Jeff, you need your beauty sleep, go home. And so I took it as that. I thought they understood. I thought they knew that I needed my sleep. And I went and got back in my engine, and I went back to my fire station. The next morning, on the news, while I'm eating breakfast at the fire station, they're talking about the call I was on, where the guy poured a gallon of gas on his head and was going to light himself off. That's that patient. That patient got handcuffed, put in an ambulance, and sent to one of our hospitals without being deconned, without having his clothes removed, without the benefit of even a second medic in the back of the ambulance, because, if this guy is nuts enough to take his own life, maybe he's going to impinge on the life of the person in the back of the ambulance. My goal for that call was to get back to bed. That's complacency, and that's moronacy. Moronic? Moronacy. That's, spelling was another class I didn't do real good in. Okay, so how do we fix this problem, or these problems? All of the three examples I gave you had a multitude of things that could have been picked out, that any one of those could have turned the tide and changed the way the call went. One is train. I've begun collecting all these calls. I have not a bunch of my calls, but some of my calls and a bunch of other people's calls where these things have happened. And I display them. I take them out. I say, hey, do we have a monitor that'll monitor for this? Do we have PPE that'll protect us from this? What could we do in this situation to keep our firefighters safe, to keep us safe, and make us go home without having to fill out paperwork and stop by the doctor's office on the way home? The other is drill, because these things don't happen without you mechanically doing them. Like the gentleman talked about earlier about putting the pump in gear. The night it was snowing, that guy needed to be deconned. We have tank water, 500 gallons, 750 gallons. You're going to want to recirculate that water and warm it up because it's snowing out. That would be a kind thing to do. Without training on that, you may say it in your mind, but when you actually get to the call, you don't do it. Exercise. My side profile, not as beautiful as like straight on like this. And I'm working on it. Read a book. Read a magazine. Listen to a podcast about fire. There's a lot of people that are talking about a lot of things. There are a lot of things to learn out there that if you don't go out and look for them, they're not going to find you. There's maybe a handful of people in this room that I know. There's all kinds of people that you're going to go back to in your fire stations and in your departments and give this information to. Whether it's out of my talk today, one of the talks earlier, or Mike's talk to finish this out. Set an example. Be the officer that says, hey, wait, let's just see what's going on. I know that they're done. I know that they've said that we can go home and sleep or go back and get back in my warm sleeping bag. But be the guy that goes up there and says, what did he do? Find out what his name is for your chart so you don't have to write John Doe in the computer for the 75,000th time. Learn your craft. And then once you've learned your craft, teach it to the next guy. Mike and I came in at the same time. Pat was here before us. We're all kind of in the same little group though. We're all kind of getting down where we need to start spilling some of that information out. We need to give what we know to other people. That's part of why I'm here. I want to download some of this so that when I retire, it doesn't leave with me. And then check out aggressivefirefighter.com. My name's Captain Jeffrey Dana. If you have any questions for me, that's my email. I'd welcome any questions you have. Give me your examples. You don't even have to say who you are. I won't identify you. I won't identify them. But other people can learn from them. Thank you for letting me talk to you today.